The woman they buried is walking back into the room, and she's not alone. 3 weeks ago, Arya Veil was nothing, a ghost. A punchline whispered behind manicured hands. Her boyfriend didn't just leave her, he chose her sister. At a family dinner, in front of everyone. They expected her to disappear, to crumble quietly like she always had. But tonight, she's walking into the Whitmore Gala on the arm of Luca, a man whose name alone makes billionaires sweat. If you want to see how a broken woman becomes untouchable, stay until the end. Drop a like and comment with your city. I want to see how far this story travels. The chandelier above the Whitmore Hotel ballroom weighed 4 tons and cost more than most people's houses. Arya knew this because she'd been to this gala before, back when she was somebody's +1, back when she smiled through conversations about hedge funds and summer homes in the Hamptons while her then-boyfriend Marcus worked the room without her. That version of herself felt like a stranger now. Tonight, the chandelier's light caught differently. It wasn't warm anymore. It was sharp, glittering off champagne flutes and diamond earrings and the thin veneer of civility that people like this wore better than their clothes. Arya stood at the top of the entrance stairs, one hand resting lightly on Luca Devereaux's arm. She didn't grip, didn't cling, just existed there, poised, like she'd done this 1,000 times. She hadn't. "Breathe," Luca murmured without looking at her. His voice was low, steady, the kind of tone that didn't ask. It commanded. "You're doing fine." "I'm not doing anything yet," Arya said. "Exactly. That's the point." The room stretched out below them, a sea of black tuxedos and silk gowns, wealth dressed up as elegance. Somewhere in that crowd, Marcus was watching. She didn't need to see him to know. She could feel it, the same way you feel eyes on you in a dark parking lot. And her sister, Caroline. Sweet, delicate Caroline, who'd looked Arya in the eye 3 weeks ago and said, "He was never really yours." Arya's jaw tightened. "Easy," Luca said, still not looking at her, still scanning the room like a predator deciding which target to circle first. "If you tense up, they'll smell it." "I'm not tense. You're vibrating." She exhaled slowly, forced her shoulders down. He was right. She hated that he was right. Luca moved, and she moved with him, descending the stairs in sync. Heads turned. Of course they did. Luca Devereaux didn't attend events. He arrived at them. 6'3", sharp-jawed, dark-eyed, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Arya's entire wardrobe. He was the kind of man people wrote think pieces about, the kind who could dismantle a company with a phone call and still make the evening news look boring. And tonight, for reasons Arya still didn't fully understand, he'd chosen to be here with her. They reached the floor. A waiter appeared instantly, offering champagne. Luca took 2 glasses, handed one to Arya without breaking stride. "You don't have to drink it," he said. "Just hold it. Gives your hand something to do." "I know what champagne is for." "Do you?" She shot him a look. He almost smiled. Almost. "There," he said, tilting his head slightly to the left. 11 o'clock. Marcus just saw you." Arya's heart kicked against her ribs. She didn't look. Not yet. "And?" she said, "and he looks like someone just told him his portfolio tanked." Now she looked. Marcus stood near the bar, mid-conversation with 2 men in navy suits, but he wasn't listening to them anymore. He was staring at her, champagne glass frozen halfway to his mouth, face caught somewhere between shock and something else. Something that looked almost like panic. "Good." Arya turned away before he could recover, let her gaze drift across the room like she hadn't noticed him at all, like he was wallpaper. "How do you feel?" Luca asked. "Like I might throw up." "That's normal." "Is it?" "Yeesh, you're about to rewrite 3 years of history in under 2 hours. I'd be worried if you weren't nauseous." They moved deeper into the ballroom, past clusters of conversation, past people Arya used to know, or thought she did. A woman in emerald green glanced over, did a double take, whispered something to her husband. Another couple, older, silver-haired, nodded politely at Luca and pretended not to stare at Arya. She recognized some of them. Marcus's colleagues, his friends, people who'd known about Caroline and said nothing. "Smile, Lucas," Luca said. "I am smiling." No, you're showing teeth. There's a difference. Arya adjusted, softened, let the corners of her mouth lift just enough to suggest amusement, not desperation. Better, Luca said. Now let's make them work for it. He guided her toward a group near the windows, 3 women and 2 men, all mid-40s, all draped in the kind of confidence that came from generational wealth. Arya didn't know them personally, but she knew the type. Marcus used to call them the core, the people who decided who mattered. Luca, one of the men said, extending a hand. Didn't expect to see you here. Robert, Luca shook his hand once, firm, then released. I don't usually do charity events. Made an exception. Robert's eyes flicked to Arya. I see. This is Arya Veil, Luca said. Not my date. Not my guest. Just her name, delivered like a fact. Arya extended her hand. Robert took it, and she felt the slight hesitation, the recalculation happening behind his eyes. Pleasure, he said. One of the women, blonde, 50s, sharp-eyed, leaned in slightly. Arya Veil. Why does that name sound familiar? Arya's stomach dropped. She's a photographer, Luca said smoothly. Editorial work, mostly. You've probably seen her name in Vogue or Harper's. A lie. A clean, confident lie. Arya had done freelance work, yes, but nothing that would land her in those publications. Not yet. But the woman nodded slowly, like she was placing it now. Of course. I thought so. The conversation shifted. Someone asked Luca about a merger. Another person mentioned a yacht in Monaco. Arya stood there, champagne in hand, and played her part, laughing at the right moments, nodding when appropriate, saying almost nothing. And it worked, because the less she said, the more they leaned in. 10 minutes later, Luca excused them. They drifted toward the edge of the ballroom, where the crowd thinned and the noise softened. You did well, he said. I barely spoke. Exactly. You let them fill in the blanks. That's power. Arya took a sip of champagne. It tasted expensive and empty. I don't know how you do this. Practice. That's not an answer. Luca stopped, turned to face her fully for the first time since they'd arrived. His expression was unreadable, but there was something in his eyes. Not pity, not sympathy. Something sharper. You want the real answer, Ian? He said. Yes. I stopped caring what they thought the moment I realized they were all terrified of being irrelevant. Once you see that, the rest is just performance. Arya stared at him. That's bleak. It's honest. Before she could respond, a voice cut through the space between them. Arya. She turned. Marcus. He stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, trying to look casual and failing. Up close, he looked older than she remembered. Tired. His hair was shorter, his jaw tighter, and there were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 3 weeks ago. Or maybe they had. Maybe she just hadn't been looking. Marcus, she said. Her voice came out steady, neutral, like she was greeting a stranger. He glanced at Luca, then back at her. Can we talk? We are talking. Alone. Luca didn't move, didn't say anything, just stood there, a silent wall of expensive fabric and unspoken threat. Arya felt her pulse quicken, but she kept her face smooth. I don't think that's necessary. Marcus's jaw worked. Arya, please. No. The word hung in the air between them, sharp and final. Marcus blinked. I said no. He stared at her, and for a moment she saw something crack in his expression. Confusion. Hurt, maybe. Like he'd expected her to fold to give him the closure he thought he deserved. She didn't owe him that. Enjoy your evening, Arya said, and turned away. Luca fell into step beside her, and they walked toward the terrace doors without looking back. Behind them, Marcus stood frozen, and the room watched. Outside, the air was cooler, cleaner. Arya leaned against the stone railing and closed her eyes, letting the night settle over her. That, Luca said, was perfect. It didn't feel perfect. It wasn't supposed to feel like anything. That's the point. Arya opened her eyes. The city stretched out below them, lights flickering like scattered stars. He looked so small. She nodded. Good, Luca said. Let him sit with that. They stood in silence for a while. Somewhere inside, the gala continued. Laughter, music, the soft clink of silverware on porcelain. Out here, it was just the two of them and the sound of traffic far below. Can I ask you something? Arya said. Go ahead. Why are you doing this? Luca didn't answer right away. He leaned against the railing beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating off him, but not touching. Because I know what it's like, he said finally. To be underestimated. To have people assume you're less than you are because they need you to be. And I don't like it when people get away with that. Arya looked at him, really looked. There was something beneath the tailored suit and the controlled demeanor, something raw and unfinished. She didn't know what it was yet, but she felt it. Thank you, she said. Luca glanced at her. Don't thank me yet, the night's not over. What do you mean? He pushed off the railing, straightened his cuffs. Your sister just walked in. Arya's breath caught. She's by the entrance, Luca continued, voice even, scanning the room. She hasn't seen you yet. Arya's hands tightened on the railing. I don't know if I can do this. Yes, you can. You don't know that. Luca turned to face her fully, and his gaze was steady, unflinching. I've watched you hold your ground with a room full of people who would eat you alive if they thought you were weak. I've watched you tell the man who broke you to walk away. You can do this. Arya swallowed hard. What if I fall apart? Then you fall apart after. Not now. Not in front of her. She nodded, slowly, then again, more certain. Okay, she said. Okay. They walked back inside together. Caroline stood near the champagne tower, laughing at something a man in a gray suit had said. She looked radiant, pale pink dress, hair swept up, pearls at her throat. She looked like a bride at someone else's wedding. Arya's chest tightened. Breathe, Luca said quietly. She did. They crossed the ballroom slowly, deliberately, giving Caroline time to notice. And she did. Her gaze swept the room, landed on Arya, and stopped. For a second, everything froze. Then Caroline's smile faltered. Just a flicker, but Arya saw it. Luca kept walking, and Arya stayed with him, matching his pace, his posture. They passed within 10 feet of Caroline, close enough to make eye contact, close enough for her sister to see exactly who Arya was standing with. Caroline's lips parted, like she was about to say something. Arya smiled, small, polite, empty, and kept walking. Behind them, Caroline stood still, her champagne glass trembling slightly in her hand. Luca leaned in as they moved toward the dance floor. How do you feel? Shaky. You don't look it. Good. The orchestra started a waltz. Couples drifted onto the floor, movements practiced and precise. Luca extended a hand. Dance with me. Arya hesitated. I'm not very good. Neither am I. That's not the point. She took his hand. He led her onto the floor, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers with surprising gentleness. They moved together, slow and careful, finding a rhythm that didn't quite match the music but worked anyway. Everyone's watching, Arya murmured. Let them. She glanced over his shoulder. Marcus stood near the bar, jaw tight, eyes locked on them. Caroline hovered near the entrance, her date forgotten, staring. And for the first time in 3 weeks, Arya didn't feel like the punchline. She felt like the answer. You're smiling, Luca said. Am I? Yeah, a real one this time. Arya met his eyes. They were dark, unreadable, but there was something warm beneath the surface, something almost kind. Thank you, she said again. You keep saying that. I mean it. The song ended. Applause rippled through the ballroom. Luca released her slowly, and they stepped apart, the space between them suddenly too wide. Come on, he said. Let's get some air. They slipped through the crowd, out onto a smaller balcony overlooking the gardens. The music faded to a murmur. The night pressed in, cool and quiet. Arya leaned against the railing, let her head fall back, stared at the sky. No stars, just city light bleeding into the dark. I keep waiting for it to hit, she said. For what to hit? The anger, the hurt. I thought I'd see them and just break, but I didn't. I don't feel anything. Is that bad? She thought about it. I don't know. Luca was quiet for a long moment. Then, maybe you've already processed it. Maybe that's why you're here. Or maybe I'm just numb. Or maybe you're stronger than you think. Arya turned to look at him. You don't know me. I know enough. Like what? He held her gaze. I know you could have stayed home tonight, could have let them win, but you didn't. That's not numbness, Arya, that's choice. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong, that she was falling apart inside, that this was all just a performance. But the words didn't come, because maybe he was right. Maybe she had chosen this. The door behind them opened. A couple stepped out laughing, then saw them and retreated quickly. Luca glanced at his watch. We've been here 2 hours, that's enough. Already? You've made your point. Staying longer doesn't add anything. It dilutes the impact. Arya nodded slowly. Okay. They went back inside, made one last circuit of the room, just long enough to be seen leaving together. Marcus watched them go. Caroline did too. Neither of them said a word, and Arya didn't look back. The car was waiting outside, a sleek black sedan that looked like it cost more than a mortgage. The driver opened the door without a word, and Arya slid inside, Luca following. The door closed. The world went quiet. Arya let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. You did it, Luca said. I did it. How do you feel? Tired, wired. I don't know. Empty, maybe. That's normal. The car pulled away from the curb, gliding through the city streets. Outside, the gala lights faded into the distance. Arya stared out the window, watching the buildings blur past. What happens now? Now you go home. You sleep. Tomorrow, you wake up and keep going. That's it? That's it. She turned to look at him. What about you? What about me? Why did you really do this? Luca was quiet for a moment, then he leaned back, eyes distant. I told you. I know what it's like to be underestimated. That's not the whole story. No, he admitted. It's not. Are you going to tell me the rest? He looked at her then, really looked, and for the first time all night, the mask slipped. Just a little. Just enough. Maybe, he said. But not tonight. The car stopped outside her apartment building. The driver opened the door. Arya stepped out, then turned back. Luca. Yeah? I meant it, thank you. He nodded once. Get some sleep, Arya. The door closed. The car pulled away. And Arya stood there on the sidewalk, alone, the night pressing in around her. But she didn't feel broken anymore. She felt like someone who'd just survived her own funeral and walked out alive. Arya's apartment was exactly as she'd left it, small, cluttered, smelling faintly of coffee and the lavender candles she'd forgotten to blow out. She dropped her clutch on the counter, kicked off her heels, and stood there in the dark for a long moment, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You were magnificent tonight. Sleep well. L. She stared at the message, then set the phone face down on the counter. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear. From whatever the opposite of fear was. Adrenaline, maybe. Or something closer to relief. She'd done it. She'd walked into that room, faced them both, and walked out without breaking. So why did she feel like crying? Arya turned on the lights, filled a glass with water, drank half of it, and set it down too hard. The sound echoed. She pressed her palms flat against the counter, closed her eyes, and tried to breathe the way Luca had told her to. In for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 4. It didn't help. The tears came anyway, hot, sudden, unstoppable. Not sad tears, not angry ones. Just the kind that happened when you'd been holding yourself together for so long that your body finally gave you permission to fall apart. She sank onto the kitchen floor, back against the cabinets, and let it happen. 10 minutes. Maybe 15. She lost track. When it stopped, she felt hollowed out, clean, like something had been scraped away and left space behind. Arya wiped her face with the back of her hand, stood up, and went to bed. She didn't dream. The next morning came too bright and too early. Arya woke to sunlight slicing through the blinds and the sound of her phone vibrating against the nightstand. She reached for it, squinting. 12 missed calls, 23 texts. Her stomach dropped. Most of them were from people she barely knew. Acquaintances, old coworkers, someone she'd met at a gallery opening 2 years ago. All of them saying some variation of the same thing. Saw you last night. You looked incredible. Who was that guy? Girl, tell me everything. One text stood out. From her mother. We need to talk. Call me when you can. Arya set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Her mother. Of course. Caroline must have called her the second Arya left the gala, spun some story, made herself the victim. She didn't want to deal with it, not yet, but the phone rang again, her mother's name flashing across the screen. Arya sighed, sat up, and answered. Mom. Arya. Her mother's voice was tight, controlled, the tone she used when she was disappointed but trying not to show it. I've been trying to reach you. I was asleep. At 11 in the morning? It was a late night. A pause. Then, Caroline called me. Of course she did. What did she say? Arya asked, keeping her voice even. She said you were at the Whitmore Gala with Luca. I was. And you didn't think to mention that to me? Arya leaned back against the headboard. Why would I? Because it's... Her mother exhaled sharply. Arya, do you have any idea who that man is? Yes. He's dangerous. He's a businessman. He's ruthless. People don't cross him and come out unscathed. Arya almost laughed. And Marcus? What do you call what he did? Silence. Mom, Arya said quietly, I'm not having this conversation right now. Caroline is worried about you. Caroline can worry about herself. Arya, I have to go. She hung up before her mother could respond, then turned off her phone and tossed it onto the bed. Her chest felt tight. Not with sadness, with something sharper. Anger, maybe. Or just exhaustion at being expected to make everyone else comfortable while she bled out quietly in the corner. She got up, showered, and made coffee. Strong, black, the kind that tasted like burnt earth but woke you up fast. By the time she sat down at her desk, the anger had settled into something colder, more focused. Her laptop was still open to the half-finished edit she'd been working on before everything fell apart. A series of portraits for a local magazine, faces she'd spent hours capturing and barely remembered now. She closed the file without saving and opened her email instead. 3 new messages, 2 spam. One from an address she didn't recognize. Subject line, opportunity. She almost deleted it, but something made her click. The email was short, professional. Signed by someone named Elaine Cortez, senior editor at Prestige, one of the biggest lifestyle magazines in the country. Ms. Veil, your work came to my attention recently, and I'd like to discuss a potential collaboration. We're looking for a photographer for an upcoming editorial series, and I believe your style would be a strong fit. Please let me know if you're available for a call this week. Best, Elaine Cortez. Arya read it twice, then a third time. This didn't make sense. She'd submitted work to Prestige a year ago and gotten a form rejection. Her portfolio was good, but it wasn't Prestige good. Not yet. Unless... She opened a new browser tab, typed in Luca's name, and scrolled through the results. CEO of Devereaux Holdings. Board member on half a dozen companies. And there, 3 links down, a mention of a recent acquisition. He'd bought a controlling stake in Prestige's parent company 6 months ago. Arya closed the laptop. He'd done this. He'd made a call, pulled a string, and suddenly she had an opportunity she'd been chasing for years. She didn't know whether to feel grateful or furious. Her phone buzzed. She'd turned it back on without thinking. Another text. This one from Luca. Lunch? 1 p.m. I'll send a car. She stared at the message. Her first instinct was to say no, to tell him she didn't need his help, didn't want his favors, didn't need to be saved. But that wasn't true, was it? She'd asked for his help. She'd stood beside him last night and let him guide her through that ballroom because she couldn't do it alone. And now he was offering more. Arya typed back. Okay. The car arrived at 12:45. A different one this time, smaller, less conspicuous. The driver didn't speak, just nodded when she got in and pulled smoothly into traffic. They drove for 20 minutes, winding through the city until they reached a part of town Arya didn't recognize. Narrow streets, old buildings, the kind of neighborhood that looked like it belonged in a different century. The car stopped outside a small restaurant with no sign, just a number on the door. The driver opened her door. Mr. Devereaux is inside. Arya stepped out and the car pulled away. The restaurant was dim, quiet, with only a handful of tables. Luca sat in the back corner, facing the door, a glass of water in front of him. He stood when she approached. "You came," he said. "You knew I would." "I hoped." They sat. A waiter appeared, set down menus, and disappeared. Arya folded her hands on the table. "You got me that job." Luca didn't deny it. "I made an introduction. What you do with it is up to you. That's not how it works, isn't it? You don't just introduce someone to the senior editor at Prestige and call it a favor. You own the company. A stake in the parent company. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting." Luca leaned back, studied her. "Are you angry?" "I don't know what I am." "Then let me clarify. I didn't tell Elaine to hire you. I told her to look at your work. She made the decision herself." "Because you asked. Because your work is good." Arya shook her head. "You don't know that. You've never seen my portfolio. I looked it up this morning." She blinked. "You... what?" "Your website. It's outdated, by the way. Half the links are broken. But the work that's there?" He paused. "It's good, Arya. Better than good. You just haven't been in the right rooms yet." Arya didn't know what to say to that. She looked down at the menu, not reading it, just needing somewhere else to put her eyes. The waiter returned. Luca ordered for both of them without asking, something in Italian that Arya didn't catch. She didn't object. When they were alone again, Luca spoke first. "You're wondering why I'm doing this. I already asked you that." "And I didn't answer, not really." Arya looked up. "So answer now." He was quiet for a moment, fingers tracing the edge of his water glass. 5 years ago, I was engaged. Her name was Isabel. We'd been together since college. One of those relationships that everyone assumed would last because we looked good together on paper. Arya stayed silent. "She left me 2 weeks before the wedding," Luca continued. "For my business partner, someone I'd known for a decade, someone I trusted." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was the best thing that ever happened to me." Arya frowned. "How?" "Because it taught me that loyalty is a performance until it's tested, and most people fail the test." He met her eyes. "But the ones who don't? They're worth everything." "And you think I'm one of those people?" "I think you could be." The food arrived, some kind of pasta, delicate and expensive looking. Arya picked up her fork, set it down again. "I don't understand you," she said. "Good. Keep it that way." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now." They ate in silence for a while. The food was good, better than good, but Arya barely tasted it. Her mind was still stuck on what he'd said, on Isabel, on the idea that someone like Luca Devereaux had ever been vulnerable enough to be left. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally. "Go ahead." "Do you regret it? Letting her in?" Luca set down his fork, considered the question. "No, I regret trusting the wrong person, but I don't regret trying." "Even though it didn't work out?" "Especially because it didn't work out. If it had, I'd still be the same person I was before. And I didn't like that person very much." Arya absorbed that. "What changed?" "I stopped waiting for people to see my value. I started showing them." "And that worked?" "Eventually." He leaned forward slightly. "But it took time. And it took deciding that I'd rather be feared than pitied." "Is that what you want? To be feared?" "No, I want to be respected. Fear is just the fastest way to get there." Arya looked at him, really looked. There was something underneath the polished exterior, something raw and unfinished that he kept locked down tight. She recognized it because she had the same thing. "I don't want to be like that." she said quietly. Like what? Hard, cold, untouchable. You won't be. How do you know? Because you're here, because you're questioning it. People who turn cold don't ask themselves if they're turning cold. They just do it and justify it later. The waiter cleared their plates, offered dessert. Luca declined for both of them. When they were alone again, Arya spoke. Marcus called me this morning, left a voicemail. Luca's expression didn't change. Did you listen to it? No. Good. I thought about it, though. Also normal. Is it? Arya, you spent 3 years with him. You don't just turn that off overnight, no matter how badly he hurt you. But listening to the voicemail won't change anything. It'll just give him space in your head he doesn't deserve. She knew he was right, but part of her still wanted to hear it, wanted to know what Marcus had to say, what excuse he'd come up with, whether he sounded sorry or just inconvenienced. What if he apologizes, she asked. Then he apologizes. That doesn't mean you have to accept it. And if he wants me back? Luca's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Do you want him back? No, but then it doesn't matter what he wants. Arya looked down at her hands. Her nails were chipped. She'd been biting them again without realizing it. I keep thinking about the moment I found out, she said, about him and Caroline. We were at my parents' house for Sunday dinner. He was late, said he got held up at work. But Caroline was already there, and she kept looking at him across the table with this expression I couldn't place. And then my mom made some joke about when they were going to give her grandkids, and Marcus just froze. And I knew. How? Because he didn't look at me. He looked at her. Luca's expression darkened. What did you do? I didn't say anything. I finished dinner. I helped my mom clean up. I smiled and made small talk and pretended everything was fine. And then when we got back to his apartment, I asked him point blank. And he didn't even deny it. What did he say? He said it just happened. Like it was something that fell out of the sky and landed on both of them and they had no control over it. She laughed bitterly. He said he didn't mean to hurt me. They never do. And Caroline, she cried. She said she never wanted it to happen either, but they couldn't help how they felt. Like their feelings mattered more than the fact that they lied to me for 6 months. 6 months? Arya nodded. That's how long it had been going on. Half a year of family dinners and holidays, and me thinking everything was fine while they were... She stopped, swallowed hard. I'm an idiot. No, you're someone who trusted the wrong people. That's not the same thing. Feels the same. Luca reached across the table, and for a second Arya thought he was going to take her hand. But he didn't. He just tapped the table once, gently, pulling her attention back. Listen to me, he said. What they did says everything about them, and nothing about you. You didn't miss signs because you're stupid. You missed them because you're not wired to think like they are. And that's a good thing. Arya's throat tightened. Doesn't feel like a good thing. It will, eventually. They left the restaurant an hour later. The car was waiting outside, but Luca waved it off. Walk with me, he said. They walked. No destination, just movement. The streets were quieter here, tree-lined and old. Arya's heels clicked against the pavement. She should have worn different shoes. Tell me something, Luca said after a while. Like what? Something true. Something you haven't told anyone else. Arya thought about it. I'm scared. Of what? That I'll wake up one day and realize I'm still the same person I was before. That nothing's changed, that I'll fall back into the same patterns and end up right where I started. Luca stopped walking, turned to face her. That won't happen. You don't know that. Yes, I do, because you're asking the question. People who fall back don't see it coming. They just drift. You're paying attention. That's the difference. Arya wanted to believe him, but belief felt too much like hope, and hope felt too much like setting herself up to be disappointed. They kept walking. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked. A car horn echoed. Can I ask you something? Arya said. Sure. What do you get out of this? Helping me? Luca didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was quieter than before. I get to watch someone become who they're supposed to be instead of who they were told to be. That's rare, and it's worth paying attention to. Arya didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. They walked until the sun started to set, and then Luca called the car. "I'll see you soon," he said as she got in. "When?" "When you're ready." The car pulled away, and Arya watched him in the side mirror until he disappeared around a corner. That night, she listened to Marcus's voicemail. She told herself she wouldn't, told herself it didn't matter, but curiosity won out, and she pressed play. His voice was rough, uncertain, nothing like the confident tone he used to use. "Arya, it's me. I don't know if you'll even listen to this, but I had to try. I saw you last night, and I need you to know I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but it's true. I was a coward, and I hurt you, and you didn't deserve that. You deserved better. You deserve better." A pause. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I see it now, what I lost, and His voice cracked. "I hope you're okay. I really do." The message ended. Arya deleted it. Then she blocked his number. Then she opened her email and replied to Elaine Cortez. "Miss Cortez, I'd be happy to discuss the collaboration. I'm available for a call anytime this week. Thank you for reaching out. Best, Arya Veil." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. A text from Luca. "Proud of you." She stared at the message, then typed back. "How did you know?" "Because I know you." "You don't, though. Not yet. But I'm getting there." Arya set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. She didn't know what was happening. Didn't know if this was healing or just distraction. Didn't know if Luca was helping her or if she was becoming someone else entirely. But for the first time in weeks, she didn't feel like she was drowning, and that had to count for something. The call with Elaine Cortez happened 2 days later. Arya sat at her desk with a notebook open, pen in hand, trying to look professional even though no one could see her. The phone rang twice before Elaine picked up. "Arya, thanks for making time." "Of course, thank you for reaching out." Elaine's voice was brisk, efficient, the kind that didn't waste words. "I'll be direct. We're doing a 12-page spread on women redefining success in unconventional industries. I need someone who can capture vulnerability without making it look weak. Your portraits do that." Arya's hand tightened on the pen. "I appreciate that." "The shoot's in 3 weeks, New York. We'll cover travel and accommodation. You'll have creative control over composition and lighting, but final edit approval stays with me. Standard rate is $15,000 for the series. Does that work for you?" Arya's brain stalled on the number. 15,000. She'd never made that much on a single project, ever. "Yes," she said, keeping her voice steady. "That works." "Good. I'll have contracts sent over by end of day. Welcome aboard." The call ended. Arya set the phone down and stared at her hands. They were shaking again. Not from fear this time, from something else, something that felt dangerously close to hope. She texted Luca. "I got the job." His response came seconds later. "I know. Elaine called me after." "Why would she call you?" "Because I asked her to. Wanted to make sure she wasn't wasting your time." Arya didn't know whether to be grateful or annoyed. She settled on both. "You can't keep doing this." "Doing what?" "Managing my life. I'm not managing your life. I'm opening doors. What you do when you walk through them is entirely up to you." She stared at the message, then typed back. "Thank you. You don't have to keep thanking me." "I know, but I'm going to anyway." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then reappeared. "Dinner tonight?" Arya hesitated. She'd seen Luca twice in the last week, and each time felt like stepping further into something she couldn't name. Something that wasn't quite friendship, but wasn't anything else either. "Okay, I'll pick you up at 7. She had 4 hours. She spent 2 of them going through her closet, trying on dresses she hadn't worn in months, discarding them one by one because nothing felt right. Too formal. Too casual. Too much like she was trying. She settled on black pants and a silk blouse. Simple. Clean. The kind of outfit that didn't announce anything. Luca arrived exactly at 7. He was in the car this time, waiting outside her building. Arya slid into the back seat beside him. "You look nice," he said. "You say that every time." "Because it's true every time." The driver pulled into traffic. Arya watched the city slide past, lights beginning to flicker on as dusk settled. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere quieter than last time." They drove for 30 minutes out of the city and into the kind of suburb that looked like it belonged in a catalog. Wide streets, old trees, houses with wraparound porches. The car stopped in front of a small bistro tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop. Luca opened her door before the driver could. "Come on." Inside, the restaurant was warm, dimly lit, with exposed brick and mismatched furniture that somehow worked. Only a handful of tables, most of them empty. A woman in her 60s greeted Luca by name and led them to a corner booth without asking. "You come here often?" Arya said as they sat. "Used to, when I needed to think." "And now?" "Now I bring people I don't want to perform for." Arya didn't know what to do with that, so she picked up the menu and pretended to read it. They ordered wine for her, whiskey for him, food that came in small, deliberate portions. The kind of meal that was more about the conversation than the eating. "Tell me about New York," Luca said. "What about it?" "Are you nervous?" "Terrified." "Why?" Arya set down her fork. "Because this is the kind of job that can make or break someone. If I mess it up, it's not just a missed opportunity. It's proof that I didn't deserve it in the first place." "That's not true, isn't it? Everyone's going to assume I only got it because of you." "Let them assume. You'll prove them wrong when the work comes out. And if it's not good enough?" Luca leaned back, studied her. "You're worried about the wrong thing." "What should I be worried about?" "Nothing. You should be focused on doing the work. The rest is noise." "Easy for you to say." "You think this is easy for me?" Arya blinked. "Isn't it?" "No. I've spent the last decade building something that people respect because they're afraid to do otherwise. That's not the same as being good at what I do. It's just being good at making people think twice before crossing me. But you are good at what you do." "Maybe. But I didn't start out that way. I made mistakes, big ones. Lost money, lost people, lost years trying to prove I belonged in rooms I had no business being in. And now? Now I'm in those rooms. But I still don't belong. I just stopped caring whether I do." Arya absorbed that. "So what changed between then and now?" Luca swirled his whiskey, stared into the glass like it held answers. "I stopped waiting for permission. From investors, from board members, from people who thought they knew better than me because they'd been doing it longer. I started trusting my instincts, even when they told me to do the opposite of what everyone else said. And that worked? Most of the time. When it didn't, I learned faster than the people who never took risks in the first place." The food came. They ate slowly, the conversation drifting from work to nothing in particular. Arya found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in weeks, maybe months. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said eventually. "Depends on the question." "What happened with Isabel after she left?" Luca's expression shifted, not closed off exactly, but more guarded. "What do you want to know?" "Did you ever talk to her again?" "Once. About a year later, she called me out of nowhere, said she wanted to apologize. And I let her. Then I hung up." "That's it?" "That's it. She wanted closure. I didn't owe her that." Arya thought about Marcus's voicemail, the apology that didn't change anything. "Do you regret it? Not hearing her out?" "No. She didn't call because she felt bad. She called because she wanted me to tell her it was okay, that I forgave her, that she could stop feeling guilty." He paused. "I wasn't going to give her that." "That's harsh." "Maybe, but it's honest." They finished eating. The waiter cleared the plates and brought coffee neither of them had asked for. Arya wrapped her hands around the cup, let the heat seep into her palms. "I keep thinking about that night," she said quietly. "At the gala, the way you moved through that room like you owned it. I want to feel like that." "You already do." "No, I was pretending." You weren't. Arya, everyone in that room was pretending. I'm just better at it than most. I don't believe that. Believe it. Half of power is convincing people you have it. The other half is convincing yourself. Arya looked at him. Really looked. In the low light, he seemed less polished, more human. There were lines around his eyes she hadn't noticed before. A tiredness that didn't show unless you were paying attention. Do you ever get tired of it? She asked. Of what? The performance. The game. All of it. Luca was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was softer than usual. Every day. Then why keep doing it? Because stopping means admitting I wasted the last decade becoming someone I'm not sure I even like. And I'm not ready to do that yet. The honesty startled her. She didn't know what to say. Luca drained the last of his whiskey. Come on, let's get out of here. They walked outside. The air was cooler now, sharp with the promise of fall. The driver was waiting, but Luca waved him off again. Walk? He said. Sure. They walked without direction, past closed storefronts and streetlights casting pools of yellow on the sidewalk. Arya's heels clicked softly. Luca's hands were in his pockets. What are you going to do about your family? He asked after a while. What do you mean? Your mother, your sister, you can't avoid them forever. Watch me. Arya. She sighed. I don't know. Part of me wants to tell them exactly what I think of them. The other part just wants to disappear and never look back. Both are valid. But only one is realistic. Which one? Disappearing. My mom will never take my side over Caroline's. She never has. And Caroline, she'll spin this into some tragic love story where she's the victim who couldn't help falling for the wrong person. And you'll let her? What choice do I have? Luca stopped walking, turned to face her. You have every choice. You can confront them. You can cut them off. You can forgive them and move on. But what you can't do is let them define the narrative while you sit quietly in the corner, waiting for it to be over. I don't know how to do that. Yes, you do. You did it at the gala. You walked into that room and rewrote the story just by showing up. That was different. Why? Because you were there. Luca's expression softened. I'm here now. Arya's throat tightened. She looked away, blinking hard. I can't keep relying on you. Why not? Because eventually you'll leave, or you'll get tired of this, of me, and I'll be right back where I started. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. I do, actually, because I don't do anything halfway, and I don't invest time in people I don't believe in. Arya met his eyes. There was something there, something raw and unguarded that she hadn't seen before. It scared her. Not because it was dangerous, but because it was real. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. Luca didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was careful, measured. I want you to stop apologizing for taking up space. I want you to stop second-guessing every decision because you're afraid of making the wrong one. I want you to trust yourself the way I trust you. That's a lot. I know. I don't know if I can do that. You're already doing it. You just don't see it yet. They started walking again. The silence between them felt different now, heavier, charged with something neither of them was ready to name. Arya's phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again. You should check that, Luca said. She pulled it out. 2 texts from a number she didn't recognize. This is Caroline. We need to talk. Please. I know you're angry, but I'm still your sister. Arya stared at the messages, her chest tightening. What is it? Luca asked. Caroline. His jaw tightened. What does she want? To talk. Are you going to? Arya thought about it, about 3 years of sisterhood, about shared bedrooms and whispered secrets and the time Caroline covered for her when she snuck out to see a concert their parents didn't approve of, about the way Caroline used to laugh so hard she'd snort, and how Arya used to tease her for it. And then she thought about the look on Caroline's face at that family dinner, the lack of shame, the quiet entitlement that came from knowing she'd get away with it because she always did. No, Arya said. You sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. She blocked the number. Then she turned off her phone completely. Luca didn't say anything, just nodded once like he understood. They walked until they circled back to the restaurant. The car was still waiting. "I should get home," Arya said. "Okay." They got in. The drive back was quiet. Arya stared out the window, watching the suburbs give way to the city, the houses shrinking into apartments, the space collapsing inward. When they reached her building, Luca walked her to the door. "Thank you," Arya said, "for tonight, for all of it. Stop thanking me." "I can't help it." He almost smiled. "Get some sleep. You've got work to do." "I know." She turned to go inside, but his voice stopped her. "Arya." She looked back. "You're stronger than you think," he said. "Don't forget that." She didn't trust herself to speak, so she just nodded and went inside. Upstairs, her apartment felt emptier than usual. She turned on all the lights, made tea she didn't drink, and sat on the couch staring at nothing. Her laptop was still open on the coffee table. She pulled it toward her, opened her email, and started drafting a message. "Mom, I know Caroline reached out, and I know you probably think I'm being unreasonable, but I need you to understand something. What happened wasn't just a betrayal. It was a choice. They chose each other over me. Repeatedly. For 6 months. I'm not asking you to pick sides. I'm telling you that I can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not. I need space. From both of them. Maybe from you too. I don't know yet. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm just trying to survive this. And I can't do that if I'm still expected to show up and smile and act like nothing happened. I hope you can understand that. But if you can't, I'll have to be okay with it. Arya." She read it 3 times. Then she deleted the whole thing. Some conversations didn't need to happen yet. Maybe they never would. Instead, she opened a new document and started sketching out ideas for the New York shoot. Lighting concepts. Composition notes. Questions she wanted to ask the subjects. She worked until 2 in the morning, until her eyes burned and her back ached and her brain finally quieted enough to let her sleep. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur. Contracts. Planning calls. Research on the women she'd be photographing. Arya threw herself into the work because it was easier than thinking about anything else. Luca texted her every few days. Never anything heavy, just small check-ins. "How's prep going? Don't forget to eat. You're going to kill this." Arya saved every message, even though she didn't know why. 2 days before she was supposed to leave for New York, her mother called. Arya almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Mom." "Arya." Her mother's voice was strained, tired. "We need to talk." "I don't think we do. Please, just listen." Arya sat down on the edge of her bed. "I'm listening." Her mother took a shaky breath. "Caroline told me everything, about Marcus, about how long it's been going on. I didn't know, Arya. I swear I didn't know. Would it have mattered if you did? Of course it would have. Would it? Because you've spent the last 3 weeks defending her. I haven't been defending her. I've been trying to keep this family from falling apart." "It already fell apart, Mom. You just didn't notice." Silence. "I'm sorry," her mother said finally. "I'm sorry I didn't see it. I'm sorry I didn't ask the right questions. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to handle this alone." Arya's throat tightened. "I don't know what you want me to say." "I don't want you to say anything. I just want you to know that I see it now. What they did. What I did by not standing up for you." "Okay. Okay?" "I heard you. I don't know if it changes anything, but I heard you." Her mother was quiet for a long moment. "Are you coming to Thanksgiving?" "I don't know." "Will you think about it?" "Maybe." "That's all I'm asking." They hung up. Arya sat there for a while, staring at the wall, trying to figure out how she felt. She didn't feel better, but she didn't feel worse either. Progress, maybe. The day before her flight, Luca asked her to meet him at his office. Arya had never been there before. She'd imagined something cold and corporate, all glass and steel and intimidation. It wasn't. The building was old, renovated but not gutted, with exposed brick and tall windows that let in too much light. Luca's office was on the top floor, spacious but not excessive, lined with bookshelves and scattered with papers that suggested someone actually worked here. He was on the phone when she arrived. He gestured for her to sit, finished the call, and hung up. "You came," he said. "You asked." "I did." He pulled an envelope from his desk drawer, slid it across to her. "For New York." Arya opened it. Inside was a check. $20,000. She looked up sharply. "What is this?" "An advance. For the shoot. Elaine already paid me." "That's for the work. This is for everything else. Wardrobe, equipment, anything you need to make sure you're not scrambling last minute. I can't accept this." "You can, and you will." "Luca, Arya, stop fighting me on this. You've been using the same camera for 5 years. Your lenses are scratched. You're good enough to make it work, but you don't have to. Not anymore." She stared at the check. "I'll pay you back." "No, you won't." "Yes, I will." "Fine. Pay me back by doing work that makes people forget I had anything to do with it." Arya folded the check carefully, slipped it back into the envelope. "Thank you." "Stop thanking me." "No." He smiled. Actually smiled. Changed his whole face. Made him look younger, less guarded. "You're impossible," he said. "So are you." They sat there for a moment, the silence comfortable in a way it hadn't been before. "Are you ready?" Luca asked. "For New York?" "For all of it." Arya thought about the last month, about the gala, the job, the slow, painful process of becoming someone she didn't recognize yet, but might learn to like. "I don't know," she said honestly. "But I'm going anyway." "Good. That's all that matters." Arya stood to leave, but Luca's voice stopped her at the door. "Arya." She turned. "You're going to be great," he said. "Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, not even yourself." She nodded, not trusting her voice, and left. The next morning, she boarded a plane to New York with new equipment, a contract in her bag, and a feeling she couldn't quite name lodged somewhere between her ribs. It felt like the beginning of something, or maybe the end of something else. Either way, she was ready. New York hit Arya like cold water. The noise, the speed, the sheer density of people moving, like they all had somewhere more important to be. She'd visited before, but never like this. Never with a purpose that felt bigger than herself. The hotel Elaine had booked was in Midtown, sleek and anonymous, the kind of place where everyone looked like they were passing through. Arya checked in, dragged her suitcase to the 11th floor, and stood in the middle of the room staring at the 2 white walls and wondering what she'd gotten herself into. Her phone buzzed. "Luca. You land okay?" "Yeah. Just got to the hotel." "Nervous?" "Terrified." "Good. Means you care." She almost smiled. Almost. The shoot was scheduled for the next morning. 8 subjects over 3 days, each one carefully selected by Elaine's team. Arya spent the rest of the evening going over her notes, double-checking equipment, triple-checking lighting plans she'd already memorized. At some point, she realized she hadn't eaten. She ordered room service, a salad that came wilted and a sandwich that tasted like cardboard, and forced herself to finish half of it before giving up. Sleep didn't come easy. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to sirens and car horns and voices echoing up from the street below. At 2 in the morning, she gave up, grabbed her camera, and went for a walk. The city was different at night. Quieter, but not silent. The kind of quiet that hummed with potential energy. Arya walked until her feet hurt, shooting whatever caught her eye. A man sleeping on a subway grate. Graffiti on a shuttered storefront, the way streetlights reflected off wet pavement. By the time she got back to the hotel, it was almost 4. She showered, changed, and sat by the window watching the sky lighten from black to gray to pale blue. Her phone rang at 6:30. "Elaine." "Arya, you awake?" "Yeah." "Good. Studio's downtown. Car will pick you up at 7:30. First subject arrives at 9. "I'll be ready." "I know you will. See you soon." The call ended. Arya stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She looked tired, wired, like someone running on adrenaline and stubbornness. Good enough. The studio was a converted warehouse in Brooklyn, all concrete floors and industrial lighting. Elaine met her at the door, 50s, sharp-eyed, dressed in black like she was attending a funeral or running an art gallery. Maybe both. Arya, good to finally meet you in person. They shook hands. Elaine's grip was firm, assessing. Luca speaks highly of you, Elaine said. He's biased. Maybe, but his instincts are usually good. She gestured toward the back of the studio. Your setup's over there. I'll leave you to it. First subject is Maya Chen, tech CEO, built her company from nothing, just got named to the Forbes 30 under 30. She's brilliant, but guarded. You'll have to work for it. Understood. Elaine left. Arya spent the next hour setting up lights, testing angles, adjusting reflectors until everything felt right, or as right as it was going to get. Maya arrived at 9 sharp, mid-20s, petite, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than Arya's equipment. She had the kind of face that gave nothing away, polite but distant, like she'd done 1,000 interviews and learned to say nothing while appearing to say everything. Maya, thanks for doing this. Of course. Maya's handshake was brief, professional. Where do you want me? Arya gestured to the chair she'd set up near the window. Natural light filtered through, softened by sheer curtains. There. We'll start simple, see what feels natural. Maya sat, crossed her legs, folded her hands. Every movement precise, controlled. Arya raised the camera, took a few test shots. Maya's smile was perfect. Too perfect. Magazine ready. Empty. Can I ask you something? Arya said, lowering the camera. Maya's smile didn't waver. Sure. Why did you agree to this shoot? The smile faltered, just slightly. What do you mean? You don't need the publicity. You're already on Forbes. You've got investors lining up. So why sit for a spread about redefining success? Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed, a real laugh, short and surprised. You're direct. I don't have time not to be. Fair. Maya uncrossed her legs, leaned back slightly. The Polish cracked just enough to show something underneath. Honestly, my PR team said it would be good for my image, show the human side or whatever. And is there one? A human side. I don't know anymore. Some days I think I traded it for the company. Arya raised the camera again. Tell me about that. Maya's expression shifted, not closed off, but thoughtful, uncertain. I haven't slept more than 4 hours a night in 3 years. I can't remember the last time I saw my family. I have 200 employees depending on me to make the right calls, and most days, I'm just guessing and hoping I don't destroy everything they've worked for. Click. Arya caught it. The moment vulnerability slipped past the armor. But you keep going, Arya said. I keep going. Why? Because stopping means admitting I don't know what else I'd be without this. Click. Another one. Maya's eyes, distant and sharp at the same time. They worked for an hour. Slowly, carefully, Arya peeled back the layers until she found the person underneath the CEO. By the end, Maya's suit jacket was off, her hair slightly mussed, her expression open in a way it hadn't been when she walked in. Thank you, Maya said as she stood to leave. That was different. Good different? I think so. I'll let you know when I see the photos. The rest of the day followed the same pattern. Different subjects, same process. A single mother who'd built a nonprofit from her kitchen table. A former athlete who'd lost everything to injury and rebuilt herself as a coach. A writer who'd published her first novel at 50, after decades of rejection, each one guarded, each one carrying weight they'd learned to hide, and each one, eventually, letting Arya see it. By the time the last subject left, it was past 8. Arya's back ached, her eyes burned, but she felt alive in a way she hadn't in months. Elaine walked over as Arya started packing up her gear. How'd it go? Good, I think. Won't know for sure until I see the shots on a bigger screen. I want to see them tomorrow, raw files. Don't edit anything yet. Arya nodded. Okay. You did well today. I wasn't sure you would. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Elaine almost smiled. I don't do confidence. I do instinct. And my instinct says Luca was right about you. She left before Arya could respond. Arya finished packing, called a car, and headed back to the hotel. Her phone had 6 missed calls. 3 from a number she didn't recognize, 2 from her mother, 1 from Luca. She called him back. "How was day 1?" he asked. "Exhausting, terrifying. Good, I think." "That's what I wanted to hear. Elaine wants to see raw files tomorrow. She always does. Don't let it rattle you." "Too late." Luca laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was warm, unexpected. "You're going to be fine, Arya. Trust yourself." "I'm trying." "I know. That's why I'm not worried." They talked for another 20 minutes. About nothing. About everything. About the difference between New York and home. About how the city made everyone feel small and significant at the same time. When they hung up, Arya felt steadier. The next 2 days blurred together. More subjects. More conversations that started surface level and ended somewhere raw. More moments captured in the fraction of a second between thought and expression. On the 3rd day, Elaine sat with Arya in the studio, scrolling through the raw files on a laptop. She didn't say anything for a long time. Just clicked through, zoomed in, zoomed out, made notes Arya couldn't see. Finally, she looked up. "These are good." "Just good?" "These are very good. Better than I expected." Arya's chest loosened slightly. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. You did the work." Elaine closed the laptop. "I want you for the next series. We're doing a piece on legacy. People who've built something that outlives them. 3-month project. Starts in January." Arya blinked. "What?" "You heard me. Are you interested?" Yes, I'm interested." "Good. We'll finalize details when you get back. For now, go celebrate. You earned it." Arya left the studio in a daze. She walked for blocks without direction, letting the city swallow her, until she found herself in Central Park. She sat on a bench near the lake and stared at the water. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Congratulations. Heard you killed it. M. Marcus." Arya stared at the message. He'd gotten a new number, found a way around the block. Of course he had. She thought about responding, thought about telling him off, telling him to leave her alone, telling him exactly what she thought of him reaching out now. Instead, she deleted the message and turned off her phone. That night, she had dinner alone at a small Italian place near the hotel, the kind of restaurant with checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles. She ordered pasta and wine and sat by the window watching people pass. Halfway through the meal, her waiter brought over a second glass of wine. From the gentleman at the bar. Arya turned. Luca sat 3 stools down, still in a suit, looking like he'd walked off a magazine cover. She stared. He raised his glass slightly. A question. Arya gestured to the empty chair across from her. Luca paid his tab and walked over. "Surprise. What are you doing here?" "I had meetings in the city. Thought I'd check in." "You flew to New York to check in?" "Among other things." He sat, signaled the waiter for a menu he didn't look at. "How are you feeling?" "Like I just survived something." "You did." "Elaine wants me for another project." "I know, she called me." "Of course she did." Luca smiled. "She's impressed. That's hard to do." Arya took a sip of wine. It was better than what she'd ordered. "Why are you really here?" "I told you. Meetings." "Luca." He was quiet for a moment. Then he leaned back, studied her in that way he had, like he was seeing past the surface to something underneath. "Because I wanted to make sure you were okay. And because I didn't want you to be alone when you finished something this big." Arya's throat tightened. "You didn't have to do that. I know." They ate, talked, about the shoot, the city, the strange intimacy of photographing strangers. Luca told her about his meetings, something to do with a merger that was falling apart because 2 CEOs refused to be in the same room. Arya told him about Maya, about the moment the armor cracked and something real showed through. "That's what you're good at," Luca said. "Finding the thing people try to hide. Is that a compliment?" "It's an observation, but yes." After dinner, they walked. No destination, just movement through streets that never fully slept. They ended up near Times Square, surrounded by light and noise and tourists taking photos of nothing in particular. "I hate this part of the city," Luca said. "Why?" "Too loud, too bright. Everyone's performing." "You perform all the time." That's different. I perform in boardrooms, in private, not in the middle of the street for strangers who will forget me in 5 minutes. Arya looked at him. Do you ever let anyone see the real version? The one that's not performing? Luca met her eyes. I'm letting you see it right now. Something shifted in the air between them, something unspoken but present, hanging there like a question neither of them knew how to ask. Come on, Luca said finally. Let's get out of here. They caught a cab back to her hotel. The ride was quiet, comfortable. When they pulled up outside, Luca walked her to the lobby. Thank you, Arya said, for coming, for all of it. Stop thanking me. I told you, I can't help it. He smiled. Then, without warning, he pulled her into a hug. Not tentative, not performative, just solid and warm and steady. Arya froze for half a second, then leaned into it. When they pulled apart, Luca's expression was softer than she'd ever seen it. You did something incredible this week, he said. Don't let anyone diminish that. Not Elaine, not Marcus, not even yourself. I won't. Good. He left. Arya watched him go, then went upstairs to her room. She didn't sleep right away. She pulled out her laptop, opened the raw files from the shoot, and scrolled through them slowly. Each face told a story. Each expression held something true. For the first time in a long time, Arya felt like she'd done something that mattered. Her phone buzzed. She'd turned it back on without thinking. Another text from Marcus. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. For everything. You deserved better. Arya stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back. You're right. I did deserve better. I still do. Stop contacting me. She hit send, blocked the new number, and set the phone face down on the nightstand. The next morning, she flew home. The city looked different from the plane, smaller, more manageable. She had left feeling like she was running from something. She came back feeling like she'd run towards something instead. Luca's car was waiting at the airport. She hadn't asked for it, but she wasn't surprised. The driver took her home. Her apartment looked exactly the same, but she felt different walking into it, like she'd left as one person and come back as someone else. She unpacked, showered, and sat down at her desk. Her laptop chimed. An email from Elaine. Arya, attached are the final selects from the shoot. You'll see your name in the credits when we go to print next month. Well done. We'll talk about the legacy project after the holidays. Take some time. You earned it. Arya opened the attachments, 12 images, each one sharper, more honest than she'd dared to hope. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. Her phone rang. Luca. Did you see Elaine's email? He asked. Just now. And I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just feel it. Arya closed her eyes, let herself feel it. The pride, the relief, the quiet certainty that she'd taken a chance and it had paid off. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For believing I could do this before I did. That's what I do, Luca said. I see potential people don't see in themselves, and I wait for them to catch up. They talked for a while longer, about next steps, about the holidays, about the fact that Arya still hadn't decided whether to go to Thanksgiving at her mother's. What do you think I should do? She asked. I think you should do whatever feels right, not what feels easy, not what makes everyone else comfortable, what feels right for you. And if I don't know what that is yet, then you wait until you do. After they hung up, Arya sat at her desk and stared at the images on her screen. Each face looked back at her, unflinching. She thought about Marcus, about Caroline, about her mother's phone call and the apology that didn't undo anything but existed anyway. She thought about the version of herself who'd walked into that gala a month ago, broken, invisible, desperate to prove she was still worth something. That version felt like a stranger now. Arya opened a new email and started typing. Mom, I've thought about Thanksgiving. I'm not ready to see Caroline yet. Maybe I won't ever be. But I'd like to see you, just us. If that's something you'd be open to, let me know. Arya. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then she opened her photo files and got to work. Because this was what moving forward looked like. Not perfect, not painless, just deliberate. And for now, that was enough. Her mother's response came 2 days later. Short, careful. I'd like that. Just us. How about the Saturday before Thanksgiving? I can come to you. Arya read it 3 times, looking for subtext, for hidden agendas, for the catch she was sure had to be there. But the message was what it was. Simple, direct, an offer that didn't demand anything in return. She texted back. Okay, Saturday at 2. The days leading up to it felt longer than they should have. Arya threw herself into work, editing the New York photos, responding to emails from Elaine about the legacy project, updating her portfolio with images that finally felt like they represented who she was becoming instead of who she'd been. Luca called twice. They talked about nothing important, about the weather, about a documentary he'd watched, about the fact that Arya had started running in the mornings because sitting still made her restless. That's good, he said. Means you're rebuilding. Or avoiding. Maybe both. Doesn't make it less good. On Friday night, Arya cleaned her apartment for the first time in weeks. Not because it was dirty, but because she needed something to do with her hands. She scrubbed counters that were already clean, organized bookshelves that didn't need organizing, rearranged furniture that was fine where it was. By the time she finished, it was past midnight. She sat on the couch, stared at the too clean space, and wondered what she was supposed to feel. Saturday came gray and cold. Arya made coffee, burned toast, threw it away, and made more. She changed clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a sweater. Casual, like this wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal. Her mother arrived exactly at 2. Arya watched from the window as she got out of her car, clutching her purse like a shield. She looked smaller than Arya remembered, older, tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. Arya opened the door before her mother could knock. Hi, Mom. Hi, sweetheart. They stood there for a moment, neither quite knowing what to do. Then her mother stepped forward and hugged her, quick, uncertain, like she wasn't sure she was allowed. Arya hugged back. It felt strange, familiar and foreign at the same time. Come in, Arya said. Her mother stepped inside, looked around like she was seeing the apartment for the first time even though she'd been here before. It looks nice, different. I moved some things around. It's good, feels more open. They sat at the small kitchen table. Arya had made tea, something to do with her hands, and now she poured 2 cups neither of them would probably drink. Thank you for coming, Arya said. Thank you for inviting me. Her mother wrapped her hands around the mug, stared into it like it held answers. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't either. Silence settled between them. Not comfortable, not hostile, just there. How have you been? Her mother asked finally. Busy. I had a job in New York for a magazine. I heard. Your father saw something about it online. He showed me. Arya blinked. Dad? He's proud of you. He doesn't always know how to say it, but he is. That landed somewhere unexpected. Arya looked down at her tea. I didn't know that. I should have told you sooner. We both should have. Her mother took a shaky breath. Arya, I owe you an apology. A real one. Not the kind I gave you on the phone, okay? I failed you. When you needed me to choose you, to stand up for you, I chose keeping the peace instead. I told myself I was trying to hold the family together, but really I was just avoiding the hard conversation. And you paid the price for that. Arya's throat tightened. She didn't trust herself to speak yet. I've spent the last month trying to understand how I let it happen, her mother continued. How I could watch my daughter get hurt and do nothing. And the truth is I was scared. Scared of what it would mean if I admitted that Caroline did something unforgivable. Scared of losing her. Scared of losing you. So I just froze. And that's not good enough. It's not even close to good enough. No, Arya said quietly. It's not. I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me. Not now. Maybe not ever. But I need you to know that I see it. What I did. What I didn't do. And I'm sorry. Arya wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. She hadn't realized she was crying. Why didn't you say any of this before? Because I didn't understand it before. I was too busy trying to fix things, to make everyone get along, to go back to how things were. But we can't go back. And we shouldn't. What happened showed me something I didn't want to see. What's that? That I taught Caroline she could get away with things because I always smoothed them over. That I taught you your feelings came second because I never prioritized them. That I built a family where the person who made the most noise got the most attention. Her mother's voice cracked. I did that, and I have to live with it. Arya stared at her mother. This wasn't the conversation she'd expected. She'd braced for defensiveness, for justifications, for the familiar dance of blame and deflection. Not this. Not raw, unfiltered accountability. What about Caroline? Arya asked. Her mother's expression hardened slightly. What about her? Have you talked to her? About all of this? I have. She's not handling it well. Good. Her mother almost smiled. She keeps saying it wasn't her fault, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that she never wanted to hurt you. But she did it anyway. Yes, she did. Her mother set down her mug. I told her I wasn't going to mediate between you two, that if she wanted to make things right, she had to do it herself, and that I wasn't going to pressure you into forgiving her just to make family gatherings less awkward. Arya felt something shift in her chest, something that had been tight for weeks starting to loosen. You said that? I did. She didn't take it well, but that's not your problem. It's hers. They sat with that for a moment. Outside, a car alarm went off. Someone shouted. The world kept moving, indifferent to the small, painful work happening in this apartment. I don't know if I can forgive her, Arya said. Or you, not yet. I understand. But I want to try, eventually, with you. I don't know about her. Her mother nodded. That's fair. More than fair. I need you to understand something, though. What's that? This can't happen again. If Caroline does something, if anyone does something, I need to know you'll have my back. Not the family's back, not the peace. Mine. You have my word. Words are easy, Mom. I know. So watch what I do, not what I say. Arya believed her, or at least she wanted to, and maybe that was enough for now. They talked for another hour, about small things, about Arya's work, about her mother's book club, about the fact that her father had finally fixed the porch light he'd been promising to fix for 2 years. Normal things. The kind of conversation they used to have before everything fell apart. When her mother left, they hugged again. Longer this time, less uncertain. I love you, her mother said. I love you too. It wasn't fixed, not completely, but it was something. After her mother left, Arya sat on the couch and let herself feel it. The grief, the relief. The strange, complicated hope that maybe some things could be rebuilt even after they'd been shattered. Her phone buzzed. Luca, how did it go? Better than I expected. Harder than I wanted. That sounds about right. She apologized. A real one. Good. She should have. I don't know what happens next. You don't have to know yet. Arya smiled at the screen, typed back. Are you busy tomorrow? Depends. Why? I want to take you somewhere. A pause. Then, okay. Where? It's a surprise. I don't like surprises. You'll like this one. The next day was Sunday. Arya picked Luca up at noon, driving the beat-up sedan she'd inherited from her father and barely used. Luca folded himself into the passenger seat, looked around at the fast food wrappers on the floor and the cracked dashboard, and raised an eyebrow. This is your car? Don't judge me. I'm not judging. I'm observing. Same thing. Not even close. They drove out of the city into the kind of countryside that felt impossibly far from skyscrapers and noise, even though it was only 40 minutes away. Rolling hills, farms, roads that curved for no reason other than to curve. Where are we going? Luca asked. You'll see. You know I hate not knowing things. I know. That's why I'm not telling you. He almost smiled. You're enjoying this. More than I should. They drove until the GPS said they'd arrived. Arya pulled into a gravel lot beside an old barn that had been converted into something between a gallery and a workshop. A hand-painted sign out front read, Westfield Art Collective. Luca looked at it, then at Arya. What is this? A place I used to come. Before everything. Before Marcus, before New York, before I forgot why I started taking photos in the first place. She got out. Luca followed. Inside, the barn smelled like wood and paint and coffee. The walls were covered with work from local artists, paintings, sculptures, photographs, and mismatched frames. A woman in her 60s sat behind a desk in the corner, reading a paperback with a cracked spine. She looked up, saw Arya, and grinned. Well, look who finally remembered where she came from. Hi, Ruth. Ruth stood, pulled Arya into a hug that smelled like lavender and cigarettes. It's been too long, kid. I was starting to think you'd gone Hollywood on me. Not quite, just New York. Same difference. Ruth turned to Luca, looked him up and down with the kind of unfiltered assessment only old women and small children could get away with. And who's this? This is Luca. Luca, Ruth. She taught me everything I know about composition. And clearly you forgot most of it, Ruth said, but she was smiling. She stuck out a hand. Luca shook it. Nice to meet you, he said. We'll see about that. Ruth gestured around the barn. Arya tell you about this place? Not really. Typical, she never could take a compliment. Ruth looked at Arya. Your stuff's still up in the back corner. Haven't had the heart to take it down. People still ask about it. Arya's chest tightened. Really? Really? Come on. I'll show your fancy friend what you used to do before you got too good for us. They followed Ruth to the back of the barn. There, on a small section of wall, were 6 photographs Arya had taken 3 years ago. Black and white. Local faces, a farmer, a waitress, a mechanic. People no one would look twice at, captured in moments of unguarded humanity. Luca stopped in front of them. Didn't say anything, just looked. These are good, he said finally. They're old. They're still good. Ruth snorted. Told you. But she wouldn't listen. Too busy chasing big city validation. I wasn't chasing anything, Arya said. Sure you weren't. Ruth patted her arm. I'm glad you came back, kid. Even if it's just for a visit. She left them there, went back to her desk and her paperback. Arya and Luca stood in front of the photos. The barn was quiet except for the creak of old wood and the distant sound of wind outside. Why did you bring me here? Luca asked. Because I wanted you to see where I started, before I was trying to be someone, when I was just trying to see people. And you stopped? I got distracted. By Marcus, by trying to fit into his world, by thinking I needed to be someone different to matter. But you came back. I'm trying to. Luca turned to look at her. Do you know why I really helped you? Why I showed up at that gala? Why I made the introduction to Elaine? Why I keep answering the phone when you call? Arya shook her head. Because when I met you, you reminded me of something I'd forgotten. That the best work, the work that actually matters, comes from people who haven't lost themselves yet, or who are trying to find themselves again. He gestured to the photos. This is who you are, not the gala, not the magazine spreads. This, seeing people who get overlooked and making them unforgettable. Arya's throat tightened. I don't know if I can be that person and also be successful. Yes, you can. You just have to stop thinking they're mutually exclusive. They left an hour later. Ruth made them promise to come back. Made Arya promise to bring new work. Made Luca promise not to turn Arya into someone she wasn't. I wouldn't dream of it, Luca said. Good. Because I know where you live. You don't, actually. Give me 5 minutes and a phone book. On the drive back, they were quiet, comfortable. The sun was setting, turning the sky orange and purple and gold. Thank you, Luca said. For what? For letting me see that. Most people don't show me where they came from. They just show me where they want to go. Maybe they don't think you'd care. Maybe. Or maybe they're afraid I'll see something they don't want me to see. Are you seeing something? Luca looked at her. Yeah. I'm seeing someone who's braver than she thinks she is, and who's going to be just fine. Arya's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She didn't trust herself to respond. They drove in silence until they reached the city. Arya dropped him off at his building, watched him walk inside, and sat there for a moment before driving home. Thanksgiving came and went. Arya spent it with her father, just the two of them, Chinese takeout, and a football game neither of them cared about. He didn't ask about Caroline, didn't ask about Marcus. Just told her he was proud of her and meant it. It was enough. The weeks after blurred together. Work, running, slow. Careful conversations with her mother that didn't fix everything but didn't make things worse. Texts from Luca that came sporadically but always exactly when she needed them. 2 weeks before Christmas, Arya got a call from a number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Arya, it's Caroline. Arya's stomach dropped. She should have hung up, should have blocked the number and deleted it and moved on. But she didn't. What do you want? Caroline's voice was small, shaky. I wanted to hear your voice. I know you don't want to talk to me. I know you probably hate me. But I had to try. Try what? To tell you I'm sorry. I know I said it before, but I don't think I understood what it meant. What I took from you. Arya closed her eyes. Caroline, Marcus and I broke up. Silence. When? Arya asked. Last week. It wasn't working. It was never going to work. We both knew that. We just didn't want to admit we ruined everything for nothing. Arya should have felt vindicated. Should have felt like justice had been served. But all she felt was tired. I'm sorry that happened, she said, and she meant it. You don't have to be sorry. You were right. About all of it. I was selfish. I was cruel. And I convinced myself it was okay because I was in love. But I wasn't in love. I was just scared of being alone, and I took the easiest option, even though it destroyed you. Yeah, you did. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I forgive myself. But I needed you to know that I see it now. What I did, and I hate myself for it. Arya sat down on the edge of her bed. What do you want me to say, Caroline? Nothing. I don't want anything. I just wanted you to know. Okay, I know. Are you doing okay? Mom said you had a job in New York. I am. I'm doing okay. Good. That's good. You deserve that. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Caroline spoke again, her voice breaking. I miss you. Arya's chest tightened. I miss you too. But that doesn't change what happened. I know. Maybe someday, but not now. I understand. Caroline took a shaky breath. Thank you for not hanging up. Yeah. The call ended. Arya sat there staring at the wall, feeling the weight of it settle. It wasn't closure. It wasn't forgiveness. It was just acknowledgement. And maybe that was all it could be for now. She texted Luca. Caroline called. And I let her apologize. Then I told her I wasn't ready to forgive her. How do you feel? Sad. Relieved. Empty. I don't know. That's normal. Is it? Yes. Healing isn't linear. Sometimes it's just confusing. Arya smiled despite herself. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You're just finally listening. Christmas came quiet. Arya spent it alone by choice, not circumstance. She worked on the Legacy project, edited photos until her eyes burned, and let herself exist in the in-between space of not quite healed but not broken anymore either. On New Year's Eve, Luca called. What are you doing tonight? Nothing. Why? Because you should be doing something. I'm fine doing nothing. Arya. Luca. He sighed. There's a thing, small, just a few people. You should come. I don't do parties. It's not a party. It's dinner. With people who won't ask you intrusive questions or expect you to perform. Who are these people? Friends, real ones, the kind who've seen me at my worst and stuck around anyway. Arya hesitated. Then, okay, but if it's awful, I'm leaving. Deal. The dinner was at a small restaurant in a part of town Arya had never been to. When she arrived, Luca was already there, sitting at a table with 5 other people. 2 men, 3 women, all around his age, all laughing at something someone had said. Luca stood when he saw her. You came. Said I would. He introduced her. Names she forgot immediately, but faces she'd remember. Kind faces. Open faces. The kind of people who asked real questions and listened to the answers. They ate. They talked. About work. About the city. About the strange, specific terror of starting a new year not knowing what it would bring. No one asked Arya about her personal life. No one pried. They just included her like she'd always been there. Halfway through dessert, one of the women, Sarah maybe, or Sophie, leaned over. Luca talks about you a lot. Arya blinked. He does? All the time, about your work, about how talented you are. He doesn't do that often. Talk about people, I mean. So you must be pretty special. Arya glanced at Luca. He was deep in conversation with someone else, gesturing emphatically about something she couldn't hear. I don't know about special, Arya said. Well, he does, so take the compliment. At midnight, they stepped outside. Someone had brought champagne. They counted down together, strangers and friends, and everyone in between, and when the new year arrived, Arya felt something shift. Not fixed, not complete, just different. Luca walked her to her car after. Thank you for coming, he said. Thank you for inviting me. They liked you. How do you know? Because Sarah asked if you were single, and when I said I didn't know, she told me I should find out. Arya's heart stuttered. And are you finding out? Luca looked at her, really looked, the kind of look that felt like a question and an answer at the same time. I don't know, he said quietly. Are you ready for me to? Arya thought about it, about the last few months, about who she'd been and who she was becoming, about the fact that for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was waiting for someone else to decide her worth. Ask me in a few months, she said. Luca smiled. Okay, I will. He hugged her. She hugged back. And when they pulled apart, something between them had shifted. Not resolved, just acknowledged. Arya drove home through empty streets, watching fireworks explode in distant corners of the sky. She thought about Marcus, about Caroline, about her mother and her father, and all the people who'd shaped her into someone she'd had to unbecome before she could figure out who she actually was. She thought about Luca, about Ruth, about the women in New York who'd let her photograph them at their most vulnerable. She thought about the fact that healing wasn't a straight line, that some days she still woke up angry, that some days she missed the version of herself who didn't know betrayal was possible. But mostly, she thought about the fact that she'd survived, that she'd walked into a room full of people who'd tried to erase her and walked out stronger, that she'd taken the worst thing that ever happened to her and used it as fuel instead of letting it consume her. 3 months later, Elaine called. The spread's running next week. I'm sending you an advance copy. Thank you? Don't thank me. This is your work. You earned every bit of it. The magazine arrived 2 days later. Arya opened it slowly, carefully, like it might disappear if she moved too fast. There, across 12 glossy pages, were the women she'd photographed, each face raw and real and unforgettable. And at the bottom of the first page, in small print, photography by Arya Veil. She stared at it until the words blurred. Then she called Luca. It's here. I know. I'm looking at it right now. And it's everything I knew it would be. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. You just would have gotten there slower. Arya laughed. Actually laughed. You're impossible. So you keep telling me. I mean it, though, thank you. You're welcome. Now stop thanking me and celebrate, Sats. How? However you want. This is your moment. Own it. Arya hung up. She stared at the magazine for a long time. Then she got in her car and drove to her mother's house. Her mother opened the door, saw the magazine in Arya's hands, and started crying. I'm so proud of you, she said. I know. They stood there for a moment, then her mother pulled her inside. That night, Arya posted one of the photos online. Not for validation, not for attention, just because it felt right. The comments came fast, hundreds of them. From people she knew and people she didn't. From photographers she admired and strangers who'd stumbled across her work. One comment stood out. From Marcus. This is incredible. You always had this in you. I'm sorry I never saw it. Arya stared at it for a long time. Then she deleted it without responding. Because he was right. She had always had it in her. She just needed to lose everything to find it again. 6 months later, Arya stood in a gallery in Brooklyn, surrounded by her work. The Legacy project had turned into something bigger. A full exhibition, her first solo show, her name on the wall in letters big enough to matter. Luca stood beside her, hands in his pockets, looking at a photograph of an elderly woman who'd spent 50 years building a library in a town no one had heard of. You did it, he said. We did it. No, you did it. I just opened the door. Arya turned to look at him. Are you ready for me to answer your question yet? Luca's expression shifted. What question? The one you asked me on New Year's. He went still. Are you? I think so. You think so? I'm ready to try, if you are. Luca smiled. Not the controlled, measured smile he gave to boardrooms and business partners. The real one. The one that made him look younger and more uncertain and completely human. Yes, he said. I'm ready. He took her hand. She let him. And for the first time in a long time, Arya felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Not because someone else had chosen her, but because she'd chosen herself. And then she'd chosen him. The exhibition ran for 6 weeks. People came, critics came. Elaine came and told Arya she wanted to talk about a book deal. Caroline sent flowers. Arya didn't throw them away. She just let them sit on her kitchen counter until they wilted. A reminder that some things could be beautiful and painful at the same time. Her mother came to the opening. So did her father. They stood in front of the photos, holding hands, and didn't say much. But they didn't need to. On the last day of the exhibition, Arya stood alone in the gallery after hours, just her and the work and the silence. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, the one who'd believed her worth was tied to someone else's perception of her, the one who'd let betrayal define her instead of refine her. That woman was gone. In her place was someone stronger, not perfect, not unbreakable, just someone who'd learned that the worst thing that could happen to you wasn't the end of your story. It was just the beginning of a different one. Arya turned off the lights and walked out into the night. She didn't know what came next. But for the first time, that didn't scare her, because she'd learned the most important lesson of all. You don't move on from betrayal by erasing it. You move on by becoming someone it can't touch anymore. And Arya had done exactly that. She'd become untouchable, not because she'd hardened, but because she'd learned her worth wasn't up for debate. And that made all the difference.